Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to start working on our cross beam, or cross tie, it can also be called. So this is the beam that goes from column to column. As you can see here, I've already started with my nice square cut end as I did on the column. So same concept applies here. I want a nice flat, even surface to work off of when I pull my measurements. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start laying out a tenon. So the end of this cross beam gets a tenon which goes into our column. Now what we need to remember is that we cut the face of our column at a slight angle to give us that bearing ledge. So what I need to do is I need to take that into consideration when I'm laying out my tenon and put the angle on the cheek of the cross beam here. So the tenon comes out, and at the end of the tenon, where it meets the rest of your beam, that's called the cheek. So what I need to do is, our tenon is 4 inches by 4 inches by 2 inches thick. That's based off of our mortise depth, okay? So what I need to do is I need to transfer that angle and those dimensions to this. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mark one edge of the cheek at 4 inches. Well, this bottom side of the beam, remember we had a 1-inch bearing ledge. So what I need to do is I need to, instead of marking it at 4 inches, which would give me a nice square plane, I need to create an angle. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to mark this at 3 inches. I'm going to take a straight edge, and I'm going to connect my marks. Now that's the cheek of this connection, okay? So we've got a 4-inch long tenon here, 3-inch long here. This is the bottom of the cross beam, which will this extra inch, so if I came right across square, you'll see there's that extra inch right here. That will be bearing on that ledge of the column, okay? So now what I need to do is I need to get my square here, and I want to transfer these lines all the way around, okay? So I'm going to come along here, use my square. Again, I'm going to roll it back the other way. And now to make sure that I have the angle going in the right direction on this side, all I need to do is again connect my marks using my straight edge. Okay, so now that we have the cheeks all marked out, we need to lay out our tenon. So what we're going to do is we're going to measure here. So I've got 6 1/4 inches thick. So I'm going to make my center line at 3 1/8. Okay? And then off of that center line, I'm just going to pull the tape out a little bit more. I know my tenon needs to be 4 inches in this direction, so I'm just going to go 2 inches to the right and 2 inches to the left. I can do the same back here. 2 inches, 2 inches. Now I'm going to take my straight edge Now here is my tenon. This material will all be taken away. And this will remain. And you can see the angled cut. This will sit on our column's bearing ledge. And you've got a tenon here. We're going to have, depending on how we work this, when we do the assembly, there may be 1 or 2 wooden pegs holding this crossbeam to the column. So now what I want to do is I don't want to just lay it out on one side. I want to make sure I have my references all the way around. So I'm gonna roll this. Now this is the top of the cross beam. And I know that my tenon needs to be 2 inches thick, right? So what I'm gonna do is, again, this face of the timber here is 6 1/8. So we're gonna go 3 1/16 of an inch to establish our center points. Now all I need to do is go 1 inch to the right, 1 inch to the left. I'll do it again here. Take my straight edge. Now this material all goes away, and this is the top looking down on the tenon in this direction. Now I need to continue to do this again because when I make my cuts, I want as many reference lines as possible. So I'm going to go to this side, do the same thing. And one more side. Now all of my marks are made. The only other thing that I do suggest doing is transferring marks across the face so you know exactly where your tenon is going to be. I'll do that for all 4 directions. You don't necessarily need to do it, but it's highly recommended to give you an even better idea off the end of where your tenon is going to be. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get set up to start making these cuts, and then we'll get our tenon all cut out.